This is case 33, which is the California Pizza Kitchen case. And the first question I had was, in what ways can Susan Collins facilitate the success of CPK? And when considering that Susan Collins is thinking about implementing a share repurchase program to increase the price per share of California Pizza Kitchen, she must consider the various impacts that debt needed to execute the program will create. And Susan Collins must examine the proposed debt to equity scenarios and determine which scenario will bring apart the optimal amount of debt. And this is discussed within the capital structure slides that shows that the value of the firm without any debt, and then the value of the firm with debt, and then the optimal value is below the value of the firm debt line where it reaches an apex, which is the value of the leveraged firm, but the downward pressure from the financial distress is applied to that value, or that slope. And then besides financial strategy, Susan Collins must also participate in other various proactive and reactive management strategies to continue the success of California Pizza Kitchen. And she must continue to evolve the franchise to meet its consumers' needs and consider the new methods of delivery that they've been using, such as the grab-and-go venues that they have at airports and malls and places like that, to see if the brand's vision or image of being an exceptional dining experience that's also budget-friendly, to see if that's going to be tarnished or not. And then Collins must also protect the brand's market capitalization, because the restaurant industry, in particular the pizza industry, is highly competitive. I also had question 2, which was using the scenario in case Exhibit 9 for California Pizza, what role does the leverage play in affecting the return on equity for CPK, and what about the cost of capital? So leverage can play a vital role in increasing a firm's ROE, and this idea of increasing the ROE by applying leverage is due to the fact that when a firm acquires debt, the ratio of net income to shareholder equity is increased, because you can sometimes raise your net income by applying leverage, and then also your shareholder equity is going to be somewhat diluted or decreased within respect to the net income, so that's going to cause your ROE to increase. And then for the different scenarios, the no debt ROE was 8.99%, and the 10% debt scenario, the ROE was 9.52%. With the 20% debt ratio, it was 10.19%, and with the 30% debt to equity ratio, the ROE was 11.06%. And it's also important to note that leverage can also significantly impact a firm's cost of capital, because when using leverage, a firm cost of capital usually decreases, and this is mainly due to the tax shield, and just that interest rates are usually lower than what the market requires. And then to calculate the cost of capital, the after-tax cost of debt was calculated, and then you times that by its weight of debt to equity in the total capital structure, and then we found the CAPM with the adjusted betas, and with the CAPM we used the June 2007 10-year government bond rate of 5.1% for the risk-free rate. And then we used the return on market from 1997 to 2007 and averaged that out and found that the return was 10.02%. So we used those values for our cost of capital and found that with no debt, the cost of capital was 9.29%. With 10% debt to equity, or 10% debt, the cost of capital was 8.86%. With 20% debt, the cost of capital was 8.42%, and with 30% debt, the cost of capital was 7.97%. And then, with the consideration of the advantages of implementing leverage with a firm, it's also essential to note a few caveats. And the first one is that applying leverage comes at the cost of increasing bankruptcy risk, and this risk will be realized in the market value of the firm. So that's a trade-off. And then there's also the actual cost of bankruptcy, which has to be taken into account for. And then the idea is that even though taking on debt will increase the value of the firm, eventually the tax shield and then the cost of capital that being decreased will actually cause the value of the firm with leverage to apex, and the marginal increase will between the actual value of the firm and the value of the firm with leverage will end up apexing, and that's your optimal amount of debt. And then debt also causes a lot of financial distress, or a lot of financial pressure, which can cause financial distress. And then the last major problem is that applying leverage can cause different agency problems. The first of which is that an individual can be incentivized to work harder if they're a shareholder of the firm. So as you take that away, then that can cause the individuals to not work as hard as they were before. Debt can also cause managers to act selfish, and it can incentivize them to take more risk, and it can also cause them to milk the property, and it can also cause them to underinvest.